Hey there, welcome to the channel. My name is James, and here at 20th and 21st Movies, we are about all things cinema. All right, I wanted to come on here for just a few minutes and share my thoughts on a recent release from the Criterion Collection. This actually came out in August of 2022, and I recently picked this title up as part of the March 24-hour flash sale on the Criterion website. This is a film from director Ronald Bronstein. He is heavily affiliated with the Sadie Brothers. He did a lot of writing for several of their films, including Uncut Gems that we have here in this wonderful 4K Ultra HD release. Ronald Bronstein wrote Uncut Gems along with the Sadie Brothers. He also wrote Good Time, another film from the Sadie Brothers, and he wrote and directed Frownland. This 2007 film, it is his only feature directing film. So it is his feature debut, and to date, it is the only film he has directed. It is a film from Ronald Bronstein. It is spy number 1137. It is a very fascinating film. This is a film that is a character study. It's a character study around this young man here. He is played by Dory Mann, and the character's name is Keith. He's a young man living in New York City in a very small apartment. His bed is situated next to his kitchen. He's got the stove right next to his bed, and he opens up the stove top and he literally eats his eggs and popcorn right there on the stove door. It's kind of a weird setup. So it's a small apartment, very cramped space. He has a roommate and he has a girlfriend. And the thing about Keith that you can kind of pick up on looking at this video here is he's a little bit disturbed, okay? He's got a personality that makes him a bit socially awkward. He's got some psychological issues that are affecting him that makes it difficult for him to engage socially in a healthy way with other people. He has trouble communicating with others. He's very frantic and manic in his personality, and he's going through what appears to be psychosis and neuroses that is essentially destroying the relationships in his life. He's having trouble holding down a job, having trouble with his girlfriend, having trouble with his roommate. Really, every relationship in his life, one of the big things you'll see in this film is you'll see that sort of that degradation of relationships throughout the course of this film because of the condition that this young man is going through, his own personal mental psychosis. And that's really what Frownland is about. It's a character study about this young man in New York City going through this psychological period of his life, or just psychological challenges, making it difficult for him to communicate with others effectively. It is leading to a sliding down life, a life going down the drain. One of the things you'll see in this fantastic package from the Criterion Collection is a stapled book, which many of you know I love a stapled booklet that you see here, Frownland. And in this stapled booklet is an essay from critic Richard Brody called Down the Drain that talks about the production of this film, Ronald Bronstein, the writer of Frownland and the director of Frownland, and how this independent film came together. And then there's another fantastic item in here called A Hazard Frankenstein. Is that right? Frankenstein? But this is a lot of writings and notes from Ronald Bronstein and from the people involved, actors in the production, that really goes into helping you understand how this film was conceived and the idea was put together and how they ultimately made this film happen. So you see a lot of the notes. Ronald Bronstein is a writer. He's a brilliant writer. He wrote Uncut Gems. So I get the sense that writing is sort of his forte. As you go through some of the interviews and the special features on the disc, you really get the sense that this is an artist that is really more comfortable in the writing space than the directing space. Speaking of the on-disc features, you do get a couple of interesting things on here. One is an introduction by Bronstein, so definitely check that out. I think the biggest feature on here, the best feature probably, is the conversation between Ronald Bronstein and filmmaker Josh Safdie. Of course, Josh Safdie and Benny Safdie are the Sadie Brothers, so they directed Uncut Gems. Ronald Bronstein wrote that film as well as for other Sadie Brothers films. And so you get a nice sit-down discussion between Josh Safdie and Ronald Bronstein. Josh Safdie was sick. He had a 103-degree fever but he pressed through. And it was a really, really good conversation because you learn a little bit more about Ronald Bronstein and his philosophy to filmmaking, his writing approach, and how he came up with this film. But also you get to get a feel for his own insecurities with the idea of directing another film. He's really scared to do so. And you even have Josh Safdie encouraging him to break out of that fear, or break through that fear and just do it. And so I think that was really an interesting dynamic, but great conversation between those two, just hearing their filmmaking sharing of ideas and how they appreciate their partnership working together through the years. So that was a good conversation. And you also get some deleted scenes, which help you learn about the process of making Frownland as well. So overall, this is a really interesting package from the Criterion Collection. In terms of whether or not I would recommend this title, I really think it just comes down to if you're interested in films that are more character studies than plot-driven narratives. If you're interested in a film like that, that really helps you to understand what's going on with a particular individual. No huge plot-driven narrative going on. You're not trying to save the world, or you're not trying to get from point A to point B, and no clear objective in sight. You're just following the life of this young man over the course of a few days as he's struggling on his job, going door to door as a salesman, having trouble communicating with other people, not really getting his points across or communicating and connecting with people very well. Really struggling with that, struggling to communicate with his boss and being eye to eye with his boss, struggling to be on the same page with his girlfriend or his roommate. You see the deterioration of all those relationships over the course of this film. If you're interested in a character study like that, definitely check out Frownland. But if you like a more plot-driven narrative, then this might be one that you might want to pass on. So that's sort of where I would leave it. But I think this is overall a nice package. Hey there, pardon the interruption, but I recorded this review and forgot to mention the video and audio quality. So let me take care of that right now. This is, of course, Frownland. And let me pop this open and let me go to the last page of the enclosed booklet, stapled booklet here. And we'll talk about the transfer section. So it says, about the transfer, Frownland is presented in its original aspect ratio of 1.66 to 1. To preserve the color timing of the film's theatrical release, this new digital transfer was created in 2K resolution on a laser graphics director film scanner at Metropolis Post in New York from a 35mm print borrowed from the Harvard Film Archive, the original monaural soundtrack was remastered from the 16mm magnetic track. So from my understanding, this film, Frownland, was originally shot on 16mm, not the best source in the world. And you can tell based on the way this film looks, it has a very rough image to it. So, it's very grainy, not tons of detail. It's not a tack sharp type presentation. It looks very much like a film that is, shot on 16mm. I believe it was transferred to 35mm, which I don't know exactly how that works. Someone put a comment in the comments and let me know about that. I'm still researching film restoration, the process, and how, all the particulars of that. But it was put on 35mm, scanned in 2K. So I think they did a nice job sort of cleaning up the image and making it look as good as it can look. But just know that it's a very grainy, rough looking presentation, not the sharpest, picture in the world. This is not the kind of film that you're going to look for a great presentation or a pretty looking Blu-ray image. You're not getting that with Frownland. But I do think the rough, grainy presentation of this film, based on the way it was shot, really serves the story because it kind of complements the very manic and crazy nature of this character study. The way that the film looks kind of complements that. So I think that's actually in service of the story. So I think it works for a film like this, for it to have that rough, look, not only around the edges, but just rough period. But that's basically the presentation of this film. It looks about as good as it can look on this Blu-ray, given the restoration work, but it is a very grainy looking image that looks the way that a film shot on 16mm with not the best camera or source in the world should look. So just keep that in mind with Frownland. So as far as from an audio standpoint, the audio is just fine. It's just a tad better than the video. So from an overall video and audio standpoint, you're getting a decent presentation of this film. Again, just temper your expectations. Don't expect this to be the prettiest looking Blu-ray or to be even a nice looking Blu-ray. It is a rough image overall, but the sound does come across pretty well. So just quick note on that. Don't want to forget to mention the audio and video quality. Back to the video. What I appreciate about this film for me personally is I appreciate this film more from the standpoint of getting an appreciation for the writer who wrote and gave us Uncut Gems with the Sadie Brothers, and his connection with the Sadie Brothers and that whole creative process and that creative union with them is part of my appreciation for this film more than the film itself. I can't say that I enjoyed watching this movie. I can say that I really more appreciated what this movie was going for, which is showing this down the drain, sliding down life that Keith is going through over the course of a few days living in New York City. So that's what I took away from the film, but let me know in the comment section below if you've seen Frownland, and if so, what you think about it. Also, let me know what films from the Sadie Brothers are some of your favorites. I know for me, this is absolutely fantastic. I have not seen their other films, like I think Daddy Longlegs and some other films that they've done, but I think that's the only film that I've seen of the Sadie Brothers. But let me know what some of your favorites are from that filmmaking duo, and let me know what else you've been watching in the world of physical media and entertainment. So that's where I'll leave it. Hope you all have a fantastic rest of your day. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time at the movies. Peace.